In this episode of BK Makes, we're making this system drill press stand. If you're thinking, boy, that looks a lot like that workbench, you're right.
You are correct, sir. Yes!
The starting point for this build is the cut list. If you know the dimensions of your next project, a cut list is a great way to maximize your materials and keep track of your parts. I'm using the free version of an app called MaxCut to make mine. You basically just enter the dimensions of your stock, whether that's sheet goods or hardwood, then the dimensions of all your parts, and it'll optimally arrange everything for you. I'll leave a link in the description down below. On to the cutting. Aha! That is a good reminder that I forgot to reinstall that vent cover after I painted the ceiling. I'm setting up my shelf holes to be 32 millimeters from the bottom of the stand, with the first row of holes 35 millimeters from the front edge. You can keep this unplugged while you set the depth of cut. Gregory Paolini has a nice YouTube video about setting bit depth on a festool, referencing the 3 zeros, which are plunging the router bit to zero the distance to the work surface, zeroing the guide rod to the turret, and then zeroing the indicator on the guide rod. Then you need to raise the depth rod by your preferred depth of cut. I like to put the screw I'm using in between the turret and the guide rod to give me the perfect clearance. You can totally make your own jig to drill shelf pin holes, but if you're into festool, this LR32 system, once it's set up, is so fast. The plywood I'm using here is pre-finished because I still had a bunch of it left over from building my Fritz and Franz jig. It's quite slick, so I'm roughing up the areas that see glue with the sander. Now here I'm marking the locations for the dominoes that'll line up the maple face frame. I'd note that in the workbench build, I used the 22 millimeter thick hardwood that Tim recommended, but this is 20 millimeter stock that I had on my lumber rack and wanted to use. So you'll see in just a second that I put my mortises clear through because I neglected to change the depth of my cut. I don't really mind the look because the beech rails that go on the face frame make them far less noticeable, but if you happen to build one of these yourself, adjust your domino depths accordingly. On the workbench build, The hardwood at the front edge gets T-tracked to allow both horizontal and vertical clamping, which I just don't see the use for at the base of my drill press, which already has its own height adjustable table. In Tim's workbench design, he's got each of the drawer sides interlocking with rabbets, which takes some setup with the dado blade. Here I'm going full J baits with all 3/4 inch stock and pocket holes. You'll never see these holes on the back, and the fronts will be covered once I find my drawer pull jig, which has yet to be unpacked as I slowly build out this workshop. I'm only putting in one drawer at the moment for drill bit storage, and plan to put some bulky stuff in the bottom to hide those hideous blocks which I stupidly put on the inside rather than the outside of the stand to provide more support for the casters. And here I'm fixing that by repositioning the blocks onto the outside face and reinstalling the casters. So that does it for the system drill press stand. I am stoked how well this matches the workbench. Pretty keen to do some more of these. I know I've got to get my planer onto a low cart. Would love to get these Festool sortainers. These are the new rail mounted ones onto a rolling cart as well. There are still multiple boxes behind the camera here that have yet to be unpacked, so I will find that drawer pull jig and get some drawer fronts put on here. When I do, I'll probably update the thumbnail of these videos, but this drawer definitely needs some organization. That'll be a future episode as well. I hope to see you then. Bye for now.